This changes everything for the Minnesota Wild, as there have been multiple developments after Game 2, including some major changes that are likely going to have to be made prior to Game 3 back home in Minnesota after an insane game against the Dallas Stars in Game 2. There is a lot of things John Hynes is going to take away and make fit for this team. We're going to be breaking it all down, going over what we had prior to today's game just about an hour before, as well as where things have taken a big change in this game, and what happens in Game 3, 4, 5 is yet to be determined. Like I said, we're going to be breaking it all down here on the channel. Before we do get into it, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already and you're looking for all of your Minnesota Wild news still after just, games less like this, so early in the morning. I mean, you can see right here, 2:28 in the morning. I'm getting you guys these updates, this content out whenever we get the news. So appreciate you guys for hitting that sub button. If you haven't already, be sure to do so. But going into this game, we got a major update before the game even started, only about 30 minutes prior. And you see this from Michael Russo. I'm told from a Minnesota Wild source that Mats Zuccarello is day to day, and it is from the elbow that Tyler Myers gave to his head, and he finished Game 1 with 3 assists. And what many people are speculating here, and once again, this is speculation. I don't want to go and jump really into anything that we don't know just yet, but it seems like this could be something that concussion symptoms that came afterwards. This is not an ideal situation. Of course, this could be a very tough go for Mats Zuccarello. Like I said, I don't want to speculate anything. I don't want to hope for the worst. But with something like this, where it is a day later, 2 days later, and only knowing that you're not going to play just before, even practicing in the morning at morning skate, this is something that we right now don't have an update on, but will continue to go about this, see where things go, likely tomorrow morning, or maybe even tonight when John Hynes does speak out. But that will all be in tomorrow's video. But with all of that as well, these are the lines that we saw without Mats Zuccarello. Tarasenko jumped up to the first line. Johansson, Eriksson Ek, Boldy stayed the same. Nick Foligno was on the third with Urov and Bobby Brink, who slotted in, and the fourth line remained the same. There was a major hole in that power play that we saw. And we're going to jump into that here in a moment, but these lines also did get shuffled around a little bit in that third period, and we have to keep in mind that Kaprizov-Tarasenko was a line prior, and they tried that out earlier this season, but really didn't work. There was no chemistry really going there. But one thing that also happened was Yakov Trenin leaving the game after only 3 minutes. And we're going to jump into that here in a moment, because that is another huge loss. But very quickly, let me ask you something before we get too far into the news. Have you ever Googled your name? Because if you haven't, it's actually crazy how much information is out there. Like your personal information, your address, your phone number, family details. It's all just sitting online. And that's exactly why we use Incogni here at Wild Digest. Incogni helps protect your privacy by removing your personal data from websites which are constantly collecting and selling your info without you even knowing. What really sets Incogni apart is their unlimited plan. It's their most comprehensive and powerful data removal plan available, and it lets you submit an unlimited number of removal requests, so even if your info is on random sites, Incogni's privacy experts will go after it for you. All you have to do is find where your data is exposed, send them the link, and they'll handle the rest. We're talking 420 plus data brokers, plus custom removals beyond that. Honestly, in today's world, protecting your data isn't optional anymore. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use the code WILDDIGEST at incogni.com/WILDDIGEST and get 60% off an annual plan. Thank you to Incogni once again for sponsoring all of these videos here throughout these playoffs. But going into, this game, at the end of the day, was not a terrible game. One thing that the Wild certainly just really didn't get going is the composure was completely out the window in the second period. But even with that, even with quite a few penalties there and a lot coming from that, beginning of the second on, 30 shots for the Wild, 32 for Dallas. Two very good goaltenders here tonight between Jesper Wallstedt and Jake Gottinger, who had a serious bounce back, kept the Stars in this game. But one thing that the Wild did a little bit better this game, they had the physicality going still at a high level. The penalty minutes, still too many for my liking, but where it was going both ways, I guess it worked. There was a lot of things that could have been cleaned up on that side. But when it comes down to the faceoffs, 54% on the dot for the Wild. Still, that's going to get you opportunities, and that's going to continue to go. A lot of puck luck going Dallas's way in this game. You had some calls that weren't called, but I'm not going to go about that because that was probably going both ways. I think there was some calls that they missed for the Wild. There was some they missed for Dallas. One thing I will say, though, is I think Tyler Myers probably could have had about 15 penalty minutes in this game. But, once again, I can't complain because the Wild got away with some as well. But you really see, and you kind of look at how that second period went, where there was only one goal, and it was from Mats Zuccarello. That's where a lot of the kind of physicality was brewing from both sides. We saw, of course, trying to go down the first period. We saw just what almost felt like a stone-cold stunner from Marcus Foligno to Thomas Harley. Things like that. Yes, you're going to get a penalty on that regardless, and they're lucky that Thomas Harley got one as well. But that's just a ridiculous penalty to take. That penalty that was called on Thomas Harley happened well before the play. If Marcus Foligno had not done anything, the Wild could have gotten a power play. So the composure was really out the window there. And I mean, you look at how things went out towards all of this, and you can see where the penalties really drew. Foligno, the elbowing, I didn't really think it was, but at the end of the day, a playoff situation, anything to the head, they're going to call it. So yes, Eriksson Ek roughing against Duchesne. Duchesne also got one. Spurgeon tripping on Rantanen. That was just a tough one to take at that point. Roughing against Harley, but once again, Marcus Foligno got 2 penalties on that. Not an ideal situation. You're giving Dallas way, way, way too many opportunities to get back into momentum, and that's where these goals came from. It may not have been power play goals, but the energy that they had, the momentum that they had, and I feel like it's just in this game, the Wild couldn't really get comfortable possession off a breakout in Dallas' zone. Many times, especially in the middle of the game, they'd get in, they'd try and skate around a bit, they'd lose the puck, they'd turn it over. It would be a shot wide, a missed pass, Dallas would come back the other way, and it feels like we would get stuck again. So things like that, just simple to clean up, very easy to go about, but one thing that they're seriously missing now with Mats Zuccarello out in this game, and hopefully no more, but we still don't know just yet, is the power play. Kirill Kaprizov was pretty much neutralized on that number 1 power play unit, with Mats Zuccarello being the passer on that first unit. They had Bobby Brink slot in there, and you see, later in the third period, also just jumping in, kind of a mix of lines there, but they had, I believe it was at the point, Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, Tarasenko, Brink, and Quinn Hughes. Some mixture of that just off a line change, but when you have your quarterback in Quinn Hughes, a lot of shooters, you have your bumper in Eriksson Ek, there's a lot of things that you really need to go right without your number 1 passer on that power play. So if they do find out that we're not going to have Mats Zuccarello in next game either, they're going to need to get someone that can really run that role just as well as Zuccarello did, or as good as they can. But when all of this happened, still the composure was really out the window for the Wild. They stayed in it. They stayed level with the Dallas Stars with what it seemed, and you have to think about this too, that the goaltenders in this game made this a 4-2 game. You see here, this was the end of the game. ESPN just didn't update, but 31 shots on Jesper Wallstedt, 28 saves. Also, going the other side, you see this, 28 shots against 26 saves for Jake Oettinger. He made so many stellar saves. Got to give credit where credit is due, and if they can just beat Oettinger once again, they had done it this game, would have been another win. It's a completely different game, and it was just a lot of puck luck, and we knew that Dallas wasn't gonna go out without a fight. They did exactly what we expected, so same mindset after last game. This game's done, you go into game 3, series 0-0. Keep that in mind. Just go about that, and you're gonna have some success. At this point now, pretty much a 3 out of 5. Think about it that way, because it's 1-1, go from there. A lot of things that are going to have to be thought about, though, whether or not we're going to see Trenin in the next game after that hit that he took from somehow Colin Blackwell. Didn't really make much sense that a 5'8" guy can knock down the league's leading hitter and also, stun him a little bit, left the game, did not return, and you see that here on the box score as well, and I want to go over this just a little bit too, because that kind of threw everything out of sorts as well. So, 2 of your main guys out, really not the best situation for the Wild. At least they will have an opportunity now, 2 days, to know whether Zuccarello will be out, Trenin will be out. If that's the case, get your guys in. Get Bobby Brink in, get a few others maybe, we see, I don't know, at this point, who would they would end up putting in the lineup. But there's options. There's a lot of things that can happen, whether it is Robbie Faber or someone else. But let me know what you thought about this. Good on the face-off dot tonight. I was impressed by Danila Yurov, and we're going to dive deeper into all of this here tomorrow. But right now, I think the one question that still remains is who will be in net for Game 3? I'm still running with Jesper Wallstedt. Once again, he kept them in this game. He was able to make a bunch of big stops that Dallas could have capitalized on early, keeping the Wild level, but they really just kind of got themselves beaten at their own game in the second period by, not really keeping the composure that we would have liked to see, especially against someone like Wyatt Johnston, for example, who is very, very good on the power play. And once again, the bounces, everything really went Dallas' way this game. It's going to happen. It's the NHL. You play 82-plus games in the season. You know there's going to be a game like this. Just unfortunate it happened in the playoffs. I mean, you saw Quinn Hughes going on that last play. The puck just curled him. He stopped skating, going for the icing. Just unfortunate. What is the smart play? It was the right thing to do to get the icing call. The first goal bounced off the boards. Off Jesper Wallstedt. Things like that. Just completely different game if that had not happened. But it is what it is. One more update I wanted to do before we go in here is, we didn't expect this game to be 4-0 for the Wild, or this series, to go 4-0. They didn't expect to sweep. They're 0-6 in Game 2s when leading the series 1-0. They've never had a 2-0 series lead. Back home on Wednesday, they'll look for a 2-1, the fourth playoff series in a row, with a win in Game 3. That comes from Dylan Lukes, keeping it very simple once again. It's the best 3 out of 5 now at this point. You're back home for 2 games. You can get a big lead here. I think it's a series, good start to the series, 1-1. You get a win in Dallas. You stole one there. You're in control now. So let me know what you thought about all of this here, ladies and gentlemen, in tonight's game. Like I said, multiple videos going to be coming. Another one tomorrow, probably 2 or 3 with all the updates we're going to get. So if you do want to stay up to date with all of this, be sure to hit the sub button. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great night. See you later.